Look, what are we even doing here if we are claiming to be making a series on fantasy crochet and knitwear, but we haven't even started working on a wizard robe made of celestial-inspired granny squares? What's that? Oh, it's what we're doing today? Well, perfect. Okay, here's the plan. It is already getting warm in here. I'm going to be creating large granny squares in different designs using an 8mm hook and both Bernette Blanket and Sweet Snuggles Light from Loops and Threads. I'm going to use various shades of blues, purples, whites, and yellows because that's what feels most wizard core to me. And when I say wizard, I am specifically thinking more like Merlin from Sword in the Stone, or better yet, the sorcerer from Fantasia. What is his name? Yensid, apparently. My lack of Kingdom Hearts experience is showing. So yeah, very magical and very, say it with me, whimsical. But yeah, since we're using the heavier blanket yarn, these squares are going to work up pretty big, pretty quickly, but that just means we get to make fewer squares. I have been gathering tutorials and videos on how to make different granny square patterns with different mystical motifs. And I have a few variations of like star, moon, sun, and magical swirl patterns that I'm excited to share with you. And I may not get too deep into any specific pattern as a tutorial, but I will link to my resources in the description. And of course, share with you any variations or alterations to patterns that I'm going to make. I'm starting off with a set of celestial granny squares from Craft Folk here on YouTube, which includes a sun, a moon, a 4-point star, and a 5-point star. Since this is a nice full set that already fits together so well, this is going to be the perfect place to start. Cue the time lapse.
These pattern tutorials were great. This yarn makes it a bit tricky to keep track of some of the stitches, but I think I did okay just following my heart. I definitely got the hang of things the more I practiced, which is so frustratingly just the way it goes with crochet and probably most things in life. Some of these first squares are simultaneously my favorites due to the color choices, but also big contenders for the back of the robe just because they aren't as good as my last few. You'll see what I mean. I fear that I may have not really gotten the hang of adding the points of the different stars until quite near the end. Again, because the blanket weight yarn was a bit tougher to navigate, but in the end, I did get there. You can still tell what each motif is, and I suppose that's all that really matters.
All right, so I've got these 4 motifs complete and I'm very happy with them, so much so that I've put in some time and actually got, well, at least the beginnings of the back of the robe complete as far as the granny squares go. This will be the body of the robe, and I think I do want to go ahead and add an extra row of granny squares too. And then we have the beginnings of the sleeves, and those will definitely need at least one more on either side, if not 2, but we'll start with 5 more squares, and that should get us to probably pretty close to being done with the back of the robe. I love how plush and fuzzy this yarn is, and I seriously cannot wait to cozy up in a giant wizard robe. This might be the best idea I've ever had. Now you may have noticed that one of these things is not like the other. I have been tooling around with this swirling pattern, and I've definitely got inspiration linked in the description, so go check that out. But I do want to show you how I made this swirl, which is absolutely my favorite one so far. And more importantly, how I adjusted it so that it would have the same number of stitches on each side to match up with the other squares, which will of course make it easier to attach them together to create the robe. Once again, we are going to be using our 8mm hook. I'm also going to need 2 stitch markers, and we are going to use 2 colors of yarn. Let's start with our first yarn. We will start with a magic circle, which I like to do by taking my first 3 fingers, holding the yarn so that the tail is past my ring finger. I'll hold it with my thumb, and I'll wrap the yarn around all 3 fingers and back up. I'll flip my fingers over, and this is where we'll cross the yarn here. And then I'll take my hook, stick it in through there, and pull a loop through. Then I like to turn my fingers back over, pinch the yarn right at the base of that loop, and then grab the working yarn, holding the ring with both hands here, and ensuring that that's nice and tight, and then pulling through for our first chain 1. Now we're able to sort of adjust the sizing of the loop here by pulling on the tail, although this yarn is a little tough to work with, but it works once you get it going. And now we are going to insert our hook into the magic circle, pull a loop through, yarn over, and pull through both of the loops on your hook to make a single crochet. We'll do 1 more single crochet. Now we are going to do 2 half double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through 1 loop on your hook, yarn over, and then pull through all 3. You'll also notice that I am working over top of the tail here, keeping my tail to the left here of where I'm adding the working yarn to finish these half double crochets. And we are going to continue that for 2 double crochets now. So yarn over, put your hook through the circle, yarn over and pull through. So you have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So that's a double crochet. And when we get to a shorter tail here, I do like to tighten the circle a little bit. All right, we have 1 more double crochet to do before we give this yarn a little bit of a tug to elongate this loop, just so that it's less likely to loosen on its own. And now I'm going to attach my second yarn. To attach the second yarn, I'm going to insert my hook through the magic circle and under the tail of the magic circle yarn. I'm going to take my new yarn and grab it on the hook, pull it underneath and through the circle, and then taking the working yarn, not the tail, the working yarn, I'm going to yarn over and pull through for a slip stitch, and then yarn over and pull through it for a chain 1. And now we are going to repeat what we did with our first yarn with 2 single crochets, 2 half double crochets, and 2 double crochets. Again, keep an eye on this tail of the magic circle. You can always tighten it a little bit if it feels like the tail is getting too short. And I am also working over the tail of the white yarns so that I don't have to weave it in once I'm done. If we flip this over, you can see the 2 tails poking out here. We're going to take the tail of the first yarn and tighten this all the way until our magic circle closes. And that's what that looks like. We'll flip it back over and keep going. We'll go ahead and start with a double crochet into that first single crochet from the other color. And now is where I like to use a stitch marker to mark that first stitch before we do another double crochet into that same stitch. And And now we're going to do 2 double crochets for the rest of these blue stitches. When we get to our last stitch, we're going to see that big loop. So let's be careful as we work in those last 2 double crochets. But once we do, that will take us to 12 stitches from the first stitch marker. And now we are going to again extend this loop up so it's less likely to come apart later. And we are going to pick up our big loop from the previous round. And let's tighten it so that it's back to being a normal loop size. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to add 2 double crochets to this first stitch in the white. And I'm going to get my other stitch marker to go ahead and mark that first stitch. And then work another double crochet into that first stitch from the previous round. And then 2 double crochets into each of the stitches after. And now into the same stitch as our stitch marker, we're going to do 1 double crochet.
No, that's not right. You want to do 2 double crochets into the first stitch, but mark the first one, something I forgot to do here as well. Then we'll do 1 double crochet in the next stitch along, then 2 double crochets in the next stitch along, then 1, then 2, and so on, until you've done 18 additional stitches.
And with that, we should be up to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We should be up to 30 stitches from the stitch marker. So again, we are going to pull a nice big loop, switch our yarn over, reduce the size of this loop, and I'm going to remove that stitch marker, and in the stitch where the stitch marker originally was, let's go ahead and add 2 double crochets. In the next stitch, we will add 1 double crochet and then continue that pattern on of 2 double, 1 double, 2 double, 1 double. And we are going to do this for 18 stitches. All right, at this point, we should have 18 blue double crochets and 18 white double crochets. Okay, I haven't been good about using my stitch markers. So let's go ahead and add 1 double crochet into the next stitch from round 1. We will mark this. We will remember to mark this. And then we will add another double crochet into that same stitch. And now we are going to continue our increases by doing 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And now we'll keep that pattern going with 2 double crochets in the next stitch, followed by 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And we will finish with 1 double crochet into that last blue stitch from the round before. Again, pull out that loop nice and long. And let's pick up the loop from the previous round. And we're going to do the exact same thing down this side as well. So 2 double crochets in that first stitch, being sure to mark our first double crochet. And then 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And keep that pattern going until we have 24 double crochets. And then our last double crochet will be in the stitch right before the stitch with the marker from the previous round. It's starting to get a little dark outside. Let me adjust the lighting for you. That's a little bit better. And now we're going to finish our swirl before we start getting into the actual granny square of everything. So let's remove our stitch marker. We will do 2 double crochets into the next stitch, and then 1 half double crochet into the following stitch, and then a single crochet into the next stitch, and then a slip stitch into that last stitch there. And we can snip this tail And let's do the same thing for the white yarn with 2 double crochets in the next stitch, a half double crochet in the next one, then a single crochet and a slip stitch. We will snip this yarn as well, and we have our swirl. Okay, I don't know if I have actually said out loud that I am following a tutorial from Baba Crochet Patterns here on YouTube, which I will link to in the description, to get me to this point. If you wanted to continue to build out your swirl and have a really pretty outline of your granny square, I would highly recommend continuing to follow that pattern. But the scale at which I am operating for these granny squares, I need to stop my build early, and I need to start deviating from that tutorial in order to get the sides to match up with the granny squares I have already made. So I am going to continue following the tutorial by at least adding a triple stacked single crochet to the 1, 2, 3, 4th stitch, and I will attach my background color yarn with a slip stitch before adding a single crochet into that same stitch, the 4th one from the color change. And rather than adding my next single crochet to, the same stitch or the next stitch from the round before, I'm going to instead insert my hook into this left bar of the single crochet we just made to add another single crochet there. And we're going to do that one more time with the single crochet we just made. And this is meant to act as our first treble crochet of this round, but it does a better job of securing our tail and also looks a little bit better than just a simple chain 3. So in that same stitch, add a treble crochet, and we'll do that by yarning over twice before inserting our hook, yarning over and pulling through the first 2 loops, yarning over, pulling through the next 2 loops, and then yarning over and pulling through the last 2 loops on our hook. Now we're going to chain 2, and in the same space again, let's do 2 more treble crochets. And that is our first corner done. Now we have to start building out the sides in a way that matches our existing granny squares, meaning we need to have corners that have 2 stitches in them and then find a way to put 13 stitches in between the 2 corners. The outside edge of our swirl currently has 50 stitches, so dividing that by 4, we don't get an even number. So I am going to put 12 stitches in between the 2 corners of these sides that are pretty straightforward, and then 13 stitches in between the corners of the sides where the color changes happen. Let's start this side with an extended double crochet in the next stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And that's an extended double crochet. In the next stitch, we will add a double crochet. In the next, we will add a half double crochet. And in the next, we will add 2 single crochets. In the next, 1 single crochet. And in the next stitch, which should be our central point of the side, we will add a single crochet. Then in the next stitch, we will do a single crochet. In the next stitch, we will do 2 single crochets. In our next stitch, we will do a half double crochet. In our next stitch, double crochet. And finish the side with an extended double crochet. Now we will do our corner stitch with 2 treble crochets, a chain 2, and 2 more treble crochets. All right, so this is where things are going to start getting a little more interesting. We have not only a kind of variation in the length requirements of each of these stitches in order to get a nice straight line on the side. We also have 12 stitches between the 2 corners, so 12 stitches here. Because our goal is to have 13 stitches between the two corners, I am going to make sure we have an increase in our central point. So we'll have 2 single crochets there, and we'll just need to build down to that from an extended crochet to a single crochet. So let's do that. Start with an extended in the next stitch, and then a double crochet, and then a half double crochet in the next stitch. Let's do one more half double crochet. And then in the next stitch, we will do a single crochet. In the next stitch, do one more single crochet. And then in the next stitch, let's do 2 single crochets. This will be our center point. In the next stitch, let's do 1 single crochet. And in the last stitch of the white color, we will do a single crochet. And then because we have this big drop, I think I want to go ahead and jump to extended double crochets in the next stitch. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. We'll do one more extended double crochet. And then in the last stitch before the corner, let's go ahead and do a treble because it's really starting to arc down following the swirl pattern. And yeah, it's not perfect, but I think once we do attach other granny squares, it'll kind of stretch a little bit and even everything out in a way that I think will work just fine for my needs. So let's do another corner. And once we have our 2 treble crochets, our chain 2, and then 2 more treble crochets in that same stitch, we can remove our stitch marker, and we are going to repeat what we did on our first side. So we'll do an extended double crochet in the first stitch of this side, a double crochet in the next stitch, a half double crochet in the next stitch, a single crochet in the next stitch, 2 single crochets in the next stitch, a single crochet in the next stitch, and then our center stitch, which is another single crochet, and then we'll do the same thing in reverse. So single crochet, 2 single crochets, a half double crochet, a double crochet, and an extended double crochet. And that will take us to our corner. We will do 2 treble crochets, a chain 2, and 2 more treble crochets, all in the same stitch. And for this last side, we are going to repeat what we did on the second side. So start with an extended double crochet in the next stitch, a double crochet, a half double crochet, a half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. I think that's what I did. A single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets in our center stitch. We'll finish off the blue stitches from the round before with single crochets. Then we will do 1 extended crochet in the next stitch, 1 more extended crochet in the next stitch, and then in our last stitch, we will do a treble crochet. Slip stitch to the top of that triple stacked single crochet that we did to start the round. Pull the yarn through after snipping, tighten it off, and we've got ourselves a perfectly adequate square to go into our wizard robe. Okay, I am so happy with how these swirls turned out. I think that the squares are square enough, perfectly adequate for our needs as far as making a whimsical wizard robe goes. So I am going to make a couple more of these. I think I need 5 more for the back. I guess 4 now that I finished this. And then 12 more for the front. And I think I will have enough squares to get everything that I'm looking for out of this robe. So I'm thinking it's time for another time lapse.
The best thing about crocheting granny squares is how easy it is to take on the road. I had the pleasure of meeting my friend for a coffee at an adorable bookstore/cafe, and we sat right in front of the fantasy section, obviously. We both brought our crochet projects and yapped and hooked for a few hours before I went home. I'm also filming all of this during that weird liminal space between Christmas and New Year's Eve, and in this household, that means it's the perfect time to play video games. Darling husband and I decided to play through a new Baldur's Gate 3 campaign, which leaves me time to crochet in between turn-based combat, and I feel like I've unlocked a life hack by being able to do both crafting and video games at the same time. So needless to say, I have made some progress. I mapped it out and I think I need 28 squares in total, and I currently have 21 in our 5 different motifs. So knowing I need 28 and I've got the 5 different designs on them, there are going to be some designs that I have 5 of and some designs that I have 6 of. I wasn't feeling confident in deciding which designs I wanted more of, but luckily for me, I launched my Patreon this week, and a few of my absolute favorite people on the planet got signed up immediately, and I am 1, so grateful for these beautiful humans, and then 2, so trusting in their opinions because they clearly have great taste. So I decided to put a poll out and see which motifs were going to be the most favored among these wonderful people. And the Patreon members have spoken. They want to see more moons and 4-pointed stars, which is awesome because those might be the easiest designs to do. Or maybe not easiest. I think all of these are relatively the same amount of effort. I think though that you can get into a little bit more of like a flow state with these patterns. And I think they work up a little bit more quickly, possibly because I'm not making as many mistakes on them. And this project has definitely been taking a little bit longer than I anticipated, so I welcome any opportunity to make this go by a little faster and get me into a wizard robe sooner. I've also run out of the dark blue yarn that I've been using as sort of a consistent border. So I did have to pivot and start using the like swirly blue, gray, and purple yarn. And I think that, you know, they're definitely different, but if I space the squares out enough, I think that it'll look pretty balanced across the board. I think this is all I have left of it, so I'm not even sure I'm gonna be able to get to the finish line with just this. And part of this project was intended to be a little bit of stash busting of this chunkier yarn. So I would love to avoid having to run out and get more of this if possible. We're playing a dangerous game of yarn chicken. Okay, with a little bit of help from my sweet helper, I think I figured out how to map out all the squares. I did find a little bit more of the navy yarn, so I have enough of that I had enough to finish a couple squares, and now I can connect all the squares using the chunkier navy color. I do still have enough squares in this like grayer, swirly, purpley blue color to sort of evenly distribute everything. And I don't think I have, aside from like side seams, I don't think I have any squares in the gray that are touching other squares in the gray. Like I think there's going to be some, I think I have everything alternating, which is great. So if we ignore this center column, we're currently looking at the setup of the front panel, and then the back panel is just underneath these. But this is essentially how I'm going to construct this, and I'm thinking maybe I should look it up to see if there are better methods, but I'm thinking a single crochet. I'll leave it up to editing, Hannah, to confirm whether or not that's the case. It's not. You did a slip stitch, a zigzag slip stitch to be specific. And it was easy enough to construct the robe from the squares. I just worked those zigzag slip stitches across each row of squares and then down each vertical column of squares, making sure to leave armholes. I'll leave my resource for you in the description. I can't even begin to express how comfortable and warm and cozy and warm and comforting in the way only a weighted blanket can be, and warm this robe is. It's really warm, actually, honestly. I'm gonna scooch on out of it, but on cold winter mornings, when it is time to convince myself to get out of bed, I know where I'm gonna turn. And no, we don't have to talk about all of the ends I still need to weave in. They're on the inside. It's none of your business. Not only is this robe warm and cozy and hefty, it's also magical and whimsical and just so lovely. Maybe it's not exactly what I had in mind. Because this was a little bit of a stash bust, I didn't want to go out and buy more of the dark blue yarn. So let me show you. Do you mind? There you go, looking pretty good. So ideally, this front ribbing would have all been the dark blue color. I think I would have preferred that in the end. I still think this looks nice and is colorful and adds a little bit of that playfulness that I'm obviously going for. Most of my efforts here where I'm trying to balance whimsy with like a more practical wearable item, I think this falls short just a little bit, and I think that it's this detail that really knocks it down a peg for me. That said, it's not meant to be worn out of the house, so I don't know how much that really matters. This one also took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I thought that we'd be able to just kind of knock out 5 or 6 squares each day. And at like a leisurely pace, I took a lot of time to go play Baldur's Gate instead of working on this project, thinking, oh, it's going to come together so quickly. Once again, I have been foiled by my own time mismanagement. If I had to pick a favorite granny square, I really, really like this moon. I think I need to replace where some of this yarn tail is peeking through, but other than that, I like that it's on the sleeve, so it gets to kind of be really present when I'm holding my coffee mug in the morning or gesturing with the air of knowing it all like I am a wizard. So yeah, that one's really cute. And then I really love all of the swirls. I'm glad I took the time to figure those out because they might be my favorite motif of all of the motifs, followed closely by the moon and the star and the sun. Oh, and the 4-pointed star. I like all of them. Me too. And I do want to say too that even though I maybe would have preferred just the single strand, single color ribbing on the front and the neckline, I don't dislike this enough to redo it. I do really enjoy it, and I kind of like the heft that it gives this front seam and neckline. So what I may try and do though to kind of build on this and make it even more like easy to wear is to create a sash, which I just ran out of time and was approaching running out of yarn. So I didn't start working on that, but I think I would probably follow a similar 2-strand method for a sash. I'm not sure that it would be ribbed like this, but we'll see. I don't know. Just something for me to play around with in my free time, all of those moments of free time when I'm not playing Baldur's Gate. This was a fun one, and one I was able to kind of check off my list that I've had on my list for a long time. So I'm really excited to have it done. I can't wait to put it on tomorrow and cozy up with a cup of coffee while I work on editing this video. And like most crochet projects, in my opinion, it was really fun to make. And if you had as much fun as I did, it would mean the world to me if you would like and subscribe. And if you do, I will see you in 2 weeks for my next video. Take care. And special thanks to Danielle for being my #1 maker and shaker over on Patreon. You're the best!